welcome to another edition of Casey's Corner 3. I am Casey Coggins, host of this podcast and the Benchwarmers podcast. And here we are again. Now, I've done 4 episodes of this, detailing 4 different teams and things I've seen with them this season. And with the Spurs, it was before the season started. And I was going to do a team every episode just to touch on every touch on them for every fan base, and really just kind of make observations. But I have to touch on the Spurs again. San Antonio kid, born and raised Spurs fan. And I try not to be overreactionary. I've really I'm trying to get out of the we that fans will say we lost last night. No, the Spurs lost last night, not we. Trying to get out of that habit and really just trying to be a fan but not a crazy person. And here we are with the Spurs having lost 7 of their last 9, 6 in a row. I think it's actually more. It's worse than 7 of their last 9, but they've lost 6 in a row, including last night not being able to complete the comeback against the Mavericks, with Luka Doncic looking like he is going to be the future MVP that everybody expected him to be. And I guess not everybody expected him to be that, but those people who didn't were taking crazy pills. He was incredible overseas, and to think that DeAndre Ayton and Marvin Bagley and Trae Young were going to be better NBA players than him would be just wrong, just factually wrong. I understand the trying to make roster fits, but I know this is a tangent, but if you look at the Suns playing so well with a competent point guard in Ricky Rubio, imagine if that competent point guard was Luka Doncic alongside Devin Booker, and just think about that combo for the next 10 years. And they passed on that. But back to the Spurs. They lost to that guy, and a decent Mavs team with Porzingis and Doncic leading that. I picked them before the season started to be my 8th seed in the West, and everybody knows how stacked the West is. The problem that I've seen with the Spurs is mainly their rotations. I picked them to be the 6th seed in the West, which is better than I had them last year. They have the system and they have the talent. I fully back the roster that they have. If you've heard me talk about them this season so far, you know my skepticism is probably putting it mildly about Marco Bellinelli. But I understand why you play Bellinelli, because he's a shooter, except he's shooting terribly. And he's not a good defender. And so I could go on and on about my feelings about him playing. The problem that the Spurs have is that their starting lineup is not good together. It's just not working. There's statistically just not working. And that's where a change needs to happen. I don't know what the change is, because you don't want to move DeRozan to the bench and you don't want to move Murray to the bench. But those two guys don't really fit together on the court at the same time, because it just seems like there's no room, and they do the same things. And why have you essentially have one of those guys just standing on the outside doing nothing while the other one dribbles the ball and starts the motions. Defensively, that starting lineup isn't very good. Bryn Forbes tries his damnedest, and he is a better just defender overall than Patty Mills. But he's still a small guard who you're trying to pass off as an NBA starter, which he is. He's a quality player, and he's an incredible shooter, and he's definitely the Spurs' best shooter. So he needs to stay a part of that starting lineup. And I'm kind of starting to feel that DeJounte should be sliding into the Manu role, or DeRozan needs to slide there. That's just what needs to happen. That seems to be what needs to happen, because the bench unit has been playing relatively well. I don't want to get back into the Marco thing, but when Patty's shooting well, the Spurs look like a playoff team. When Patty's not shooting well, they don't. And I think that these rotations, when they get figured out, there should be no problem winning multiple games in a row. Now, DeJounte Murray is the Spurs' best player, and he's on this minutes restriction, which is one of the things that screws up rotations, is because, you can only play him 5 minutes in the first or 6 minutes in the first, but then you take him out for a 12-minute stretch of gameplay, and then you put him back in, and that doesn't allow you to necessarily have the rotation and the lineups that you would like to see for an entire game. So that just lends its hand to the point that I'm making, that the rotations are the only thing that need to be fixed for this team to be fixed. I know other fan bases are looking at the Spurs losing 6 in a row, and they're like, finally they're falling back to earth. And I understand that. It's been 23 years of playoffs. My favorite Spurs stat coming into the year is the fact that they had only spent in the last 20 years 2.5 months under 500, where the next team was 4 years under 500. The short-term fix to these rotations is starting Derek White over DeJounte. And that's not trying to say DeJounte should be benched. That's to say that I think DeJounte paired with Patty Mills and, God forbid, Marco Bellinelli and Rudy Gay and whoever else off of the bench, I would love to see Lonnie Walker get some more play, but that just seems to be not happening ever. DeMare Carroll, who put in some pretty good minutes last night, and I'm hoping has earned himself more minutes going forward. But putting DeJounte with some of these bench guys really enables him to be him and lead the team. Whereas when he's on the court with DeMar DeRozan, it's almost like the old Westbrook and Durant thing where it was like, okay, you go and ISO, and then okay, you go and ISO, okay, you go and ISO, and that it just leads to inefficient shots and bad offense. And I would like to see it broken up. Like, DeMar has been pretty good this season efficiently. Last night he had, I think, the most points he's had as a Spur. He played incredibly on offense, and I mean, he made some bonehead mistakes down the stretch, but like, I'm okay with him being like forcing the action because I know the like skill level he has. I mean, you get frustrated as a fan when you see your team fumbling the ball out of bounds, making a silly foul, getting a 5-second violation because you have no timeouts and nobody seems to be running the play that was drawn up out of the timeout. But I've been pretty happy with the way DeMar has looked, other than a couple games. LaMarcus, he seems to be in a weird spot. One person I follow on Twitter has been keeping up with the plus minus of LaMarcus Aldridge and DeMar DeRozan, and LaMarcus only has a positive plus minus in 2 games this season, and DeMar only has a positive plus minus in 4, I believe it is. But that goes to the point that the starting unit just doesn't fit together. So I would really like to see a starting 5 of Derek White, Bryn Forbes, DeMar DeRozan, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Rudy Gay over Trey Lyles. And then coming in with Patty Mills, DeJounte Murray, Trey Lyles, Jakob Poeltl, like either Trey Lyles or Rudy Gay. One of those guys should be starting, one of those guys should be coming off the bench. And then your 5th there should be Lonnie, Damari Carroll, and Marco Bellinelli if he has to play. I would personally like to see DeJounte, Patty, and Lonnie be the 1, 2, and 3 in this positionless basketball game that we play, or they play, because you get 2 very athletic guys on the perimeter in Lonnie and DeJounte who are good with the ball in their hands to make plays. Lonnie has shown spurts of being a talented defender. He's also, lost awareness of where he is on the court, which is one of the reasons why he gets pulled. But I'd rather see a guy unaware who can actually recover and make a play than watch a guy who's aware and just can't do anything to stop it. And I think that would allow all of your players to be put into roles that highlight their strengths. And that's really what it comes down to, is if you're not going to have a LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Kawhi Leonard, Giannis Antetokounmpo, James Harden level player, the Spurs have been known to elevate the level of the rest of the players who aren't to that level. And that's what getting the right rotations does. You strengthen your defense in spots, you strengthen your offense in spots. Now, instead of somebody having to shoulder the load the entire time, they get put into a just better situation. I mean, Twitter is all a rage about, we need to trade DeMar, we need to trade LaMarcus, we need to trade Patty, we need to trade Marco, we need to trade whoever, we need to make these roster moves, we need to do this, we need to do that. No, the Spurs need to stand pat. Unless somebody's like going to offer, like the rumor was the Magic were looking at possibly trading for DeMar DeRozan. If they're going to trade Aaron Gordon in a first-round pick or some kind of package like that for DeMar DeRozan, you have to do something like that. But the chances, the likelihood that a package of like that caliber is going to be offered or accepted by another team for DeMar DeRozan or LaMarcus Aldridge or whoever you want to trade, it's just, it's not happening. So do what you can with the roster that you have now, and I think you'll see that improvement. It's like 12 games into the season, 13 maybe. I'm just, I'm on my drive, so not 100% aware of what their actual record is. I want to say it's 5-8, 5-9, so 14 if that's the case. And I think it's still too early in the season. They're not, a 5-game winning streak puts them back in the playoffs if the season ended after that 5-game winning streak. So, as I'm going to say for the 100th time, the Spurs just need to fix their rotations. That's all they need to do. Once they fix their rotations, they're going to be just fine. As I started this podcast episode with, they have the talent. It's there. DeJounte comes off of minutes restrictions, and they start figuring out how to play together, who can do what, and getting all the when to play what player. All those little things that go into rotations and teamwork and chemistry. Once that gets shored up, we'll watch them go on a run. And with that wraps up this episode of Casey's Corner 3, Spurs Part 2. I will be back recording again sometime soon. And I think that I'm going to be focusing on the Bucks that episode. So stay tuned. See you then.
We are fans of a different kind. We'll take your girl, pay you no mind. Stealing hearts is what we do. Watch out, girl.